Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we are having our Valentine's Day decorating sugar cookie class with our favorite Miss Sara. So, Sara, take it away.
All right. So I am not going to really start with an intro because I think everybody here has been in at least one of my classes before, hopefully. So I'm just going to start with my same spiel that I always give you, which is have fun, don't stress. If your cookies don't look exactly like mine, it's okay. It's what makes it fun and gives them personality. If your cookie cutters do not look exactly like mine, don't stress about that either. Just kind of work with what you've got. Don't stress, don't go above and beyond, and don't, feel like everything has to be perfect. So that's all I'm going to say. And these are my Valentine's Day cookie set for this year, my sample set that I did. And what I'm going to focus on tonight are these 6 cookies, I think. Definitely these 2 because they become my favorite. And then we'll kind of see where we can go from there as far as some ideas for hearts and things like that, just to give you some ideas to play with. And like I said, like I always say, make them your own. And I love the idea of Valentine's Day being able to market to customers, something like, oh, I'm doing Valentine's Day sets. Here's an example of how I do my hearts and stuff like that. But each set is designed specifically, for you, and it's unique and all that. And that way you're not promising, every set to look exactly the same and do the exact same thing every time. And I find a lot of customers are okay with that. This is the well, I should put this one in here, but this is kind of my color scheme that I'm going with this Valentine's Day for all my sets. I'm doing a lot of variety sets, which will include a lot of different kinds of hearts with names, hearts with words, things like that. But this is the color scheme that I'm going with, which is basically this red, white, pink, and kind of teal color. I think I made my teal a little darker tonight, but I like the idea of not doing the usual pink, white, red, and adding something like a teal or a yellow or even a dark blue or something like that, because it just makes it pop a little bit more, makes it a little bit more unique, if that makes sense. You could even throw something like a gray or a silver or something like that in there and it would look really cute. It really depends on who your market is. Obviously, if you're doing it more towards kids, you want to keep colors bright and all of that. If you want to go for the more romantic look, you're going to want to do more dark, kind of romantic colors. So it really just depends on kind of what you're going for. Cool. That's my little intro.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So before we get started on decorating, let's talk about red, which I promised we would do. The one thing I like about red for Valentine's Day is it's a little more forgiving than like Christmas red, or if you're trying to match like a sports team or school or something like that, those tend to be less forgiving. But with Valentine's Day reds, they can be a little more pink. They could be a little darker or a little lighter or whatever. And it's not such a huge deal because it's all going to kind of go together. So this red has been sitting around for, I'm going to say 3 or 4 days now, but the color has not changed since day 2. So the first thing that I will say is if you have the time, it is always worth it to let your red sit overnight. Always, 100% of the time. Because, and I don't know if everybody's had this problem, but have you ever done red and you get that where some parts dry darker or you get those darker spots and things like that in there? And yeah. It was explained to us recently that is because the color is sitting out and developing, and you've got certain spots that are developing over more time because they're staying wet longer. So if you think about the outside of your cookie is drying faster and the inside is drying a little slower, so the inside is going to end up being darker because it's sitting there and developing. If your red is completely developed, you're less likely to end up with those spots, with those color differences, things like that. The other thing is, what do I know anything about?
It says, do you know anything about microwaving red or black to have them deepen in color?
Yeah, so you can do that with Royal. I do not like doing it. I think that that works better for buttercream because you can do small amounts of it and then mix it back in. With Royal, I think it affects the consistency too much. I have tried it. It's personally, I don't think it's worth it. I think that it's easier to plan ahead and let your color develop for Royal. And that's just me. But I have seen people do it with Royal. It's just not, it's not my preference. I don't want to mess with the consistency more than I have to. So let your Royal sit. The other thing I will say that I've had really good luck with is the faster that you dry your red cookies, the better outcome you end up getting. And my favorite way recently to dry cookies is to just put them in the oven with the door closed and the oven light on. And it provides enough heat that your cookies dry faster and your red isn't going to sit there and continue to develop. So you do get that pretty true red color that's in your bag on your cookie if you can dry your cookie faster. Hopefully that makes sense. You can also use a fan, but I think fans mess with the design on the cookies. Sometimes you end up getting like ripples and things like that. Somebody recently told me you could use a heat lamp like you do in like aquariums, like for, you know, snakes and stuff. I don't know. I don't, you know, haven't tried that, but somebody did tell me that recently. And I was like, oh, that's really smart because they're probably not super expensive. You can get them at any pet store.
Right. Sarah, how long do you typically put your cookies in the oven when you do it that way?
So when I do it that way, I usually, well, I have been leaving them in the oven about anywhere from an hour or two, depending on what I'm trying to accomplish. If I'm doing like royal transfers, I'll leave them in there for 3 or 4 and let them dry completely, because then they'll be completely dry after that. If I'm doing like flooding on a cookie like this and I want to go ahead and do details on it, I'll leave it in there for an hour just to get it dry enough. But I would say after about 2 hours, your cookie's going to be pretty dry. And for me, I want to take them out as soon as I can because I know it is just a matter of time before somebody in my house forgets that they're in there, even though I put a little sign on there, and somebody turns on the oven and ruins all my cookies. And so I'm in and out of the oven when I have to do that. I'm not leaving them in overnight or doing anything like that. It's probably about an hour or two. The other thing I want to say about red is the red that you use makes a huge difference. So these are just some of the reds that I have right now. I'll push that up. I know you guys can't see it. And by far, my favorite has been this Christmas red by Chef Master. You don't need as much of it as you do with like Wilton color or with the sunny side up or something like that to get that really good red look. And I find that I do not have much color variation when I use that. The super red I really like also, but you end up getting a darker red even when you don't use a lot of it. This Christmas red is made to be a bright, true red, primary color red. And so this has been my favorite. The powdered colors I do not like for red. I don't like them for blue. I find that I have to add so much color, so much of the powder, that it's just not worth it in the end. And so, yeah, like I said, this has been my favorite is these Chef Master ones. The super red or the Christmas red are both great. The sunny side up is good in a pinch, but it takes a longer time to develop and I find I need a lot more of it. The Wilton one I really don't like. I find it always comes out pink no matter what I do. So this is just my preference based on what I use, you know, with my royal. So yeah, any other questions about red that I can answer? And when I say red, by the way, I'm sort of saying red, navy blue, and black to some extent. I'm merging all those into the same category. Anytime you have to do like a navy blue, a royal blue, something like that, it's best to let it develop overnight. Black, I find though, when I use the Chef Masters I don't know what it's called. It's like very, very black or something like that. I don't have to let that sit. I get this really, like I just did this today, and you can see this is a really good dark black color. I put probably 1.5 drops in here. I just find that it is a really good, really pigmented black that I don't have to let sit if you use the Chef Master one. If you use something like Wilton, if you use something like the Sunny Side Up, if you're using one of the powders, then I definitely recommend starting with like a dark gray color, letting it sit for a while, see how it develops. And the other tip I want to give y'all, if you are seriously trying to color match, like you want to take orders and be able to color match for schools or sports teams or any of those things we talked about before, then you need to put the time and effort into developing your colors and figuring out what works. Don't wait until you have an order and tell somebody, oh yeah, I can do Cardinals red, and then sit there and play with it the night before. When you do cookies next time, take out some of that icing and take a couple bowls and put a 1/4 cup in there, you know, in each of the bowls, and put a drop of red in this one and 3 drops in this one, and make this one darker than you think it should be. Throw something over them, let them sit overnight and see what works best. You know, put some research into it, so that you know what kind of results you're getting, and you can tell the customer, oh yeah, I can do that, or I can't. It's worth just taking the extra icing and taking the extra time and doing the research into it, playing around with the brands and the amount that you're putting in. Make sense?
Yes.
It does. We have another question about bags. I think you might have touched on this, but I'm going to read it to you.
Yeah.
Sarah, your piping bags look like they're pretty small. Do you use a larger bag and cut it down, or have you ordered smaller bags to use?
So these are, honey, on the table right there are my big piping bags I just ordered. Can you grab me one? Sorry, guys. Oh, I didn't expect to get questions about bags, so I didn't have them ready. But
It's okay.
These are the, I know you can't see it yet. There's a struggle happening over here. I know you guys can't see it, but hold on. These are the piping bags that I use for flooding. These are 18-inch. They are, I'll have to look up the brand on Amazon and get it to you, because it says Sweetie with 2 E's, but I know that's not the brand that came up when I ordered it. But these are 18-inch piping bags. I really like them because they're not crazy expensive for the size that you get. You get a bunch of these with every order. And sorry, just putting some of that stuff around. So with these, and I like them because, like my little bags, they are textured. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is not a like smooth bag. This is a textured bag. And I love the textured bags because they're easier to grip, they're easier to tie, they're just easier in general. I find that they don't rip as much. The one thing that I don't love about these is, even though they're tipless bags, I find that the seam is a little thicker than what I would like it to be. So I use these solely for flooding, which makes sense for me, because if you think about it, most of my orders are going to be 2-3 dozen cookies at a time, right? And I'm doing maybe 1 or 2 colors with flooding. So I'm going to fill this, tie it off with one of these, and I'm not having to worry about cutting the tips so small and doing such small details, because I'm just using it for flooding. Does that make sense? Then for details, go ahead.
I said, yes, it does. Sorry.
Then for details, I use these bags, which I have here. And again, I think these are like my little cookie bags or something like that. I've said it before. I will look up the links to all of these and send it to you guys. These are 12-inch bags. I use these for all my details, fine line work, anything like that. They are tipless. They have a very small seam. You can see it right here. It doesn't get in the way of anything that I do. They are also textured, which you guys can hopefully see a little bit, which I like because again, it makes it easier to grip. These are definitely, they are 12-inch, I promise. I just cut like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 inches off of them just to make setup here easy and, you know, have everything easy to work with and not in the way. But so I definitely do use 2 different bags, depending on what I'm doing. So,
And the small ones you always tie, and the flood ones you always use the rubber band thingies?
I'm going to say 90% of the time I use the rubber band things on the flood ones. And the reason is because so if you think about it, if you're doing details with this, right, you're not using a whole lot of icing at one time. But when I'm flooding, I'm using a lot and going through a lot. So what I can do with these rubber bands is literally roll them down the bag as I go to create that tension in the bag so that I don't have to hold the bag tight. I'm creating it with the rubber band. That's just what I do. You can absolutely use rubber bands for these detail ones too, but I find that I end up throwing them away a lot of the time on accident because, you know, I go through so many of the detail bags that it's just easier for me to tie them off like that. And I'm not having to create that super tension like I am when I'm trying to flood them. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense.
Absolutely.
But like 95% of the time, that's what I'll do. Occasionally I get lazy and tie off my, you know, flooding bags, or if I'm, you know, not flooding a whole lot of cookies, I'll do that. But that is generally my process. Any other questions about that?
No, ma'am.
And y'all know how I feel about cutting the bags, right? With the tiny scissors. We've talked about these. These are my little detail craft sewing scissors. I've got like, I don't know, 5 pair around here now. And if you had to, like, if I had to answer what are the top 3 things you need for cookie decorating, this would be in there. Because I just think it makes such a huge difference. So again, I'll just harp on that, even though you guys have heard me say it over and over. Anything else before we get started?
No, we're ready.
Cool. So is anybody decorating with me tonight? Just so I know.
Marla, Kelly, Natasha, Pause, maybe. She might not be. Anyone else?
All right, cool. Let's get started then. So I'm going to start with these 2 cookies. And I'm saying I'm going to start with these 2 because, and I think most of you guys know, but I'm going to go through it anyway, like we don't. But when you are doing cookies that involve going section by section, you want to give your sections just a little bit of time to crust over in between. So what I'm going to do is sort of start and go back and forth. I'm going to move some of this stuff out the way. I'm going to start and go back and forth with these 2 cookies so that we can kind of do, you know, one section here and then one section here and one, et cetera, and see how that works. This has been my favorite design to do with hearts this year. It works with every color. It's pretty, it looks really fancy, and it is deceptively easy to do. But your customers will think that you are amazing when you show them this gorgeous, pretty striped, whatever, flowy, artsy cookie. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with our gnome. I think we sort of touched on this in the class, and I said to use the clear coarse sprinkles or whatever. Basically, you just want like a neutral white color that you're going to end up pouring over here. What I do is I kind of create this mix. We kind of talked about it at Christmas time, where whenever I get down to the end of having, you know, coarse sugar or the white, like little mini non-perils or anything like that, I mix it all together. And sanding sugar, anything, if it's white or clear, I kind of mix it all together, and I use it for various things throughout the year. And one of the things I really like it for is our gnome's beard. and I like it for snow on Christmas cookies. And that's why I'm like throughout the year, if I end up with just little amounts of, this white sugar or whatever, I'm just mixing it all in a container and saving it mostly for Christmas, because half of those cookies are going to end up having snow on them, right? So I'm going to start with, so I drew out my gnome ahead of time just to show you guys what I'm doing. You absolutely don't have to do this. I'm just kind of wanting to show you the steps. You can absolutely just kind of go with the flow with this guy. It's really easy to do. He's supposed to be a character, so don't stress about lines being in certain places or whatever the case is. So what you want to have is you want to have your white, clear sprinkles, sugar, whatever you're going to use ready. And then we're going to use our white flooding line consistency of royal. And what we're going to do is, you can see I kind of sectioned off. This is going to be where his, big cartoon nose is, his hat, his beard, and then we're just going to put a little bit down here, which is, I don't know, his pants or shirt or whatever this little awkward section is here. So I'm going to start right in the middle with his beard. And all I'm going to do is the same way that y'all have seen me flood everything time after time, is I'm just going to go through with this white and outline it. And then I'm going to go back and fill it in. And this is the one place where you do not have to be perfect at all, because remember, we're going to put that sanding sugar over it, and you can sort of push it around and sculpt it to however you want it to look. So don't stress about this being perfect by any means. So there's his beard. And then I had a cup somewhere. There it is. So I try not to make a mess just for you guys. We're just going to hold him over this and pour this on, because unless somebody has a better way to do this, this is what I find works for me. And there's his little beard. And you can kind of fill in your little spots. And like I said, now you've got sprinkles on the side. So if it's, flowing over, or you don't like the look of it, just sort of push it around, take your scribe. I'm going to make a little bit more space for his nose here, things like that. Let me know if I start to get off camera, because, I like to come all the way down here.
Okay.
But the thing I like about this technique in particular is it gives you another dimension of texture on your cookies. So you can see it's going to make it stand out a little. It's going to make it shiny. It's just gives it a little umph and a little something special. And again, you can use anything that you want with this. If you decide I want my gnomes to have pink beards and I want to use pink sanding sugar or whatever, go with your heart and do what makes you happy. So that's it for his beard. Any questions about that? Are we doing okay? Y'all look like you're concentrating really hard. I love that.
They are. They are. Natasha has a helper, so she's probably doing extra good.
I love that. Like, y'all look like you're really trying here. It's much more fun when people participate and like do it along, so that, we can see the results. So after you get your beard done, mine's sort of wanting to flow off here, but that's okay. We're just going to let it be. You're going to want to set that aside just for a minute and let it sort of settle and crust over a little bit. And in the meantime, I'm going to move on to this heart. And let me know if y'all need me to wait for a second, by the way. All right.
Yeah, if you're working with her and she's going too fast and I don't catch it, because I'm trying to keep an eye on all of you, but if I don't catch it, just shout it out and she'll slow down.
I absolutely will. Like, I love that y'all are like doing it with me. So, just let me know what you need. So for the heart, again, we kind of talked about this in the chat too. This is my color scheme that I went with. You can do this with any colors. You can do this with 2 colors, 3 colors, 4 colors, 5 colors. Again, kind of like the gnome, I just sort of sketched this out a little to give you an idea of what my plan is. But when I do these, I just kind of do whatever makes me happy at the time and whatever looks good. So basically you just want to start at one end. And the way that I usually do is I start with my smallest color, the smallest amount of color that I'm going to use, and work my way up to the largest amount. And I don't know that this is something that I consciously think about, but now that I'm saying that, I do that so that I have more cookie to hold on to until the very end, if that makes sense. So like with this cookie, you can see I did this small amount of red, and then my pink is going to be this large space. So all the way up until I do this last step, I've got this whole part of the cookie that I can hold on to and flip it around and turn it and do all that. So I'm going to start with the smallest area that I'm going to work on, which is for this cookie is going to be my red. And just like with the gnome beard, I'm going to take my red flood consistency and outline where I want my red to go. And then flood that in. And just be careful with this one, because if you're doing a small area like I am right here, you want to be careful not to over flood and have it run over, because that's really, really easy to do with those small sections. And I'm just going to give that a little shake. I don't even need this. And that is good to go. I'm just going to fix it up.
You might have already went over this, but sorry if you did. Do you just randomly draw whatever sections you want, or do you do
Yep.
all of them the exact same?
No, I do.
You just kind of.
I do whatever makes me happy in the moment. And I don't generally draw them out in advance. I just kind of take those 4 colors and mix and match. I will say I did try this vertically, so that my like swirls were going this way. And I did not like the look on the hearts as much. I don't know why. I just find that doing it, horizontally. I find that doing it up and down, let me not even, like this gives you a better flow and a better look, but you can do whatever direction you want. You can do, like I said, however many colors you want, whatever kind of swirls you want to do, anything. I just kind of take my 4 colors, 5 colors, whatever I have, and kind of go with flow and do them all a little different. And that way there's not a lot of pressure to, make them all exactly the same. So, all right, we're just going to put that cookie to the side for a second. Oh, I do want to say one more thing about this. If you want to, you can do more than one section at a time with cookies like this. Like I could easily do the red and the white. I personally, with something that is I'm doing gradual colors like this, I don't like to do that. I find that it's easier to sort of get a flow going to just go one side to another. Once you put in this section, you're kind of stuck. So if you put in another color and you decide, oh, I don't like that look, or, if you put in too much of one color or whatever the case is, you're kind of stuck there. So this is just my preference and how I like to do it. But if you want to be more efficient about it, you can absolutely do 2 sections at a time with that. So if y'all want to be more efficient, do it that way. All right, back to our gnome. We all still good? All right, I see a thumbs up, so I'm going to take that as everybody.
Marla, you doing good? She's concentrating.
I know.
Okay, she said yes.
All right, so the gnome, the next thing we're going to do is his hat, and I don't know, what are we going to call this? His shirt area or her shirt area or whatever we want to call it.
I think it looks like a dress.
All right, we're going to call it her skirt then, her dress. So with the gnome, again, do what makes your heart happy. For this gnome, for whatever reason, I have decided that she's going to be teal. So I am, obviously this one was pink, but I'm going to do this one in teal just because to switch it up a little bit. So we're going to do both sections now. So what we're going to do is start with the small section for the same reason that I do it with the heart that I was talking about with the heart. You start with the small section so that you have the large section to hold on to until the end to be able to turn it around and do whatever you need to do with the cookie. So start with your small section and just go ahead and outline the same way we've done everything else. and just kind of push up under his beard, her beard, whatever. And go ahead and flood that in. And then this is where you get to be creative, right? So if you are comfortable doing wet on wet, add some dots, add some hearts, add whatever makes you happy. If you have these really amazing, fun Valentine's Day sprinkles that you want to use, throw some sprinkles. I'm just going to do a couple little pink dots and then move on, but you know, have fun with it. Actually, that's really cute. I love this color combination. And so that's going to be that is going to be my bearded gnome's skirt. We all still good? Cool. Then you want to take the same matching color and go
Looks
ahead.
like Kelly has a helper too.
Everybody has helpers. So you're going to want to take that same color and go ahead and do the hat, and remember to leave a space for the nose. So the hat is going to be similar to how we did the beard. You're just going to want to take your icing and outline. And then go on the top of the beard and then around this little nose area to leave room for the nose. And then just fill that in. And then decorate. And this is one of those things, like, you can do wet on wet, which is what I tend to do with these gnomes, is the wet on wet, do, you know, dots, do hearts, do whatever. You could also let it dry for a little while and end up doing some patterns on here, some stripes, whatever it is you know, want to do to make your gnome special and fancy. My favorite thing to do are these little hearts, where y'all know how to do these. The little, super easy.
I've tried them before, but they always just turn into one big blob.
Oh my God.
I'm doing them wrong.
Look, so you put your piping bag down. You can't see. I'm all the way down here.
No, I can't see.
Let me move my gnome so I can move up. So you put your piping bag down and just squeeze and make a dot, and then stop applying pressure and pull it back. So you end up with this like little teardrop looking thing, right? And then do the same thing next to it, and then just pull back. So you end up with two little teardrops right next to each other, and they end up being a heart. Super easy,
That's
right?
super cute.
That's how you do that. Oh.
Super easy. The
Mine usually turn into a big circle.
Well, the trick to it is just applying pressure in the right point. So apply pressure at the top, stop applying pressure and pull down, and then apply pressure at the top and make that other dot, and then stop applying pressure and pull down. So you end up like with these little teardrop hearts. Because if you keep applying pressure all the way down, then like Chrissy said, you'll end up with a big blob. So you want that dot, pull, and then you have these cute little hearts. Sorry, y'all. I keep coming down here where you can't see.
That's cool. I keep wanting to tell you, but then as soon as I unmute, you're right back to the right place.
I'm trying to pay attention. I finally, I think, have my setup the way I want it. It only took me a year of classes.
Hey, we're all a work in progress, Sarah.
Right? Better late than
Always.
never.
That's right.
So that's my gnome. I feel like my gnome looks like she's in pajamas. But that's okay.
That's just smart.
So that's my gnome for now. We're going to come back to the nose in a minute. I'm just going to push her out the way and try not to ruin it, and then go back to this heart. Are we still good? Y'all need me to slow down? Are we still rolling through okay?
Everyone is working. Everyone is working very well.
My little baby bees just buzzing away, making cookies. I love it. I'm such a proud mom over here. Are we still okay? Are we decorating our gnomes? Y'all need a minute? Yes. Okay. We can take a minute.
Everybody's giving us the thumbs up.
not Marla.
Oh, she said yes first. I don't know. She's changing midway.
I'm gonna come back to this cookie whenever y'all are ready. Just let me see some thumbs up or let me know, or just 1 minute. Okay, we got you, Marla. Don't worry. The other one that I'm really excited to do is the leopard print. So I hope y'all want to do that one because I did leopard print pumpkins in the fall and they were a huge hit. I did a fall market and I was surprised because they were the first cookies to sell out. Apparently everybody loves leopard print as much as I do. So yay. Let's do some leopard print hearts. Everybody's working. How we doing, guys? Any questions? Are we having any trouble?
Marla's having trouble, and I'm pretty sure Natasha is as well, but we're not gonna. Maybe they need to show us so that we can troubleshoot on the spot.
We won't make them show us yet.
Sarah, I don't know if you saw, but my gnome didn't come in and I'm doing it on a ring cookie cutter. So I can't stop laughing because this is just so bad.
But you know what? That's okay because it's the techniques that you want to follow through on, right? I mean, so I applaud your creativity. Like as long as you're doing something where you can section it out, then it's just the techniques that you want to get.
Mine's just too thick.
What's too thick? Your royal?
Yes.
Oh,
Stop right now and thin it out. Don't suffer, Marla.
yeah, we've all been there. Christy and I are stubborn. We will suffer through a whole set of cookies. Be like, nope, I already mixed it. I already put it in a bag. It's fine. I'm gonna make it work. And then at the end, end up scraping off all the cookies because I hate it so much.
You know what? Mine's got a bumpy hat.
That's okay. Put some sprinkles on it.
It's just
So
that-
the top hearts were
Oh my
my
God.
first attempts, and then the bottom ones got much better.
That's super cute. Perfect.
Cute,
I
Kelly.
love that gnome with the little feet. I need that one.
Yeah, I kind of like yours with like the bigger beard area, but it works.
Yeah, I got this one.
Let
in
us see one more.
around Christmas.
Let us see one more time, Kelly. I was too
Yep.
slow.
This is so
So
cute.
cute.
This was my first one with no instruction.
Hey,
This
that's
one's
cool.
better.
I
will
love
say-
it.
I know
Marla's gonna show us hers.
Marla, it's adorable.
Oh, so cute.
I see what you mean. The icing's a little thick.
That
You
looks
gotta thin out
good.
the icing, but it's super cute. You
I
know
was
what
say
you
that
can
looks
do?
good.
They look like
Mhm.
chocolate chips. The pink. It's
But you know what? You're getting it. And that's what's important. And you know what? You already knew what the problem was and were able to identify it. And that's half the battle.
yeah. If I wasn't doing it in the class, I would have. And after the class, I'm going to go back and redo the royal.
You got it.
But I got the idea, so that's what
Yeah.
counts.
Again, half the battle. And I
Yeah.
did want to mention the nose part. I find that a lot of people, when they do like characters and stuff like this, want to stick the nose in first and then work around it. And you really, really want to wait until last to do that. Because then you get, like you can see on my gnome, and this probably isn't the best example, but see how his nose is like sticking out and it looks more like 3D than the rest of it? That's the effect you want to get. You want to get that nose sort of standing out. And you're able to do that a lot better if you wait until the end and let everything crust over a little more, because then you can put the right amount of icing that you need in there in order to get that effect. So just something that I've noticed. Cool. So back to this guy. I'm just going to go ahead and put the next color on here, which for me is going to be teal. And again, I made this a little darker than my last cookies, but that's okay. And so again, we're just going to kind of outline. And you guys can see I did draw it, but I wasn't thrilled with the way my swirl was looking at the top. So I just kind of adjusted it on the fly. And then something that makes your definition a little easier is if you take the time to outline around that first color. If you guys can see what I just did, I didn't just outline here and here. I outlined the whole section and around that first color. It just makes defining everything a little bit easier and makes it so that you're not going to run into that space accidentally and have issues or anything like that. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can definitely push your icing over a little bit, but it does make it a little easier to create that definition. I'm just going to give her a little shake. And I have the most beautiful royal for this class. I can't get my royal this beautiful when I have to do, 8 dozen cookies in one day. I will struggle with it. But when I only need to do 4 cookies, perfect. Amazing royal. Look at this. I don't even have to shake it, pop air bubbles, nothing. Look at me. Anyway, this is a good thing. I'm going to be angry. I'm just a little irritated that I can't get that on a regular. That's all. Okay, so I'm gonna let that section sit. I'm gonna let my gnome sit for a little while more before we talk about the nose. So I'm just gonna kind of push all these out of the way and then do the leopard print cookie. Are we all good with that? Are we all okay? Are we still on the same page?
We're all good.
Cool. So did I tell you guys to have black ready? I did, right? I hope I did. Okay, good. Good. All right. So the one thing that I'm going to say before I start this cookie is you have to work pretty fast with it. So if you're following along with me, what I'm going to say is kind of watch, see what I do, and then I'll take a minute so that you guys can do it too. Or I could do another one or whatever you guys need to see. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline and flood this cookie. And then I'm going to put in, you see all the little black areas around there's the gold in the middle, but all the little black areas that make it the leopard print. I'm going to put all those in. And then what I end up doing is after it crusts over, I go back and put the gold, or you can actually do this with any color. You could do like a light pink with dark pink in the middle or anything like that. I prefer this technique to trying to do like a color here and then outline it in black, if that makes sense, like doing all of it wet on wet, because I find that I don't have enough time to do it the way I want it and to make it look the way I want it. And the nice thing about doing the painting on top after the fact is I can hide any problem areas, right? And also with my leopard print, I just really like to do metallics. So 9 times out of 10, when I'm doing leopard print, I'm going to fill it in with this gold or silver or something like that instead of another color. So that's why I do it like that. But again, you can absolutely do like, okay, I'm going to do, this whatever color. Let's say you're going to do a pink and then a dark pink. You could absolutely do the pink spots and then go back and outline them with the black. It's just, you have to work so quickly. And I find that it ends up being messy and spotty, and you kind of end up with, points where your icing lifts and things like that. So, but again, do what makes you happy, do what you're comfortable with. I'm just explaining to you why I do things the way I do them, but my word is not gospel. It's just a suggestion.
Sarah, for the blue teal color that you have, do you know what the actual color was that you used?
Oh, I don't know. Some mix of everything that I have in there. I have teal, turquoise. I also find that the teal and the turquoise colors in general end up giving you more of a green. They end up leaning more towards green. And so I usually will go in and put like just the tiniest bit of blue in there so that you get more of that blue color. But I can, after this, show you all my teal and turquoise. I can't off the top of my head tell you which ones I used. Obviously,
It's
I
okay.
use one.
Maybe when you're doing your actual Valentine's orders, you can just record yourself making some blue, and so we can just see it.
Yep. And I will say that
That'd be cool.
teal or turquoise or whatever you want to call it, I'm going to say it ends up being one of my signature colors. I do it a lot as a accent color. Teal and purple, teal and yellow, teal and I just really like teal. And I think that you can make different shades of it to make it go with a lot of different colors and make things pop really well. So I do end up using it in a lot of my sets, just because I love it so much. So, okay, so I'm going to show you this cookie really quick. If I forget to talk, then Christy is going to talk for me. And then I will pause for a second and let you guys sort of do your leopard print thing. So again, all I'm going to do is outline. And remember, y'all make me nervous when I do these classes. So I do better work than this when nobody's looking. Don't forget that.
We are so intimidating. I can just tell you.
I know. You have no idea. And knowing it's recorded too, so people can come back and see it later. Oh, Lord.
I'll delete it.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to quickly fill this in. Oh. Give this a little shake.
And pull it up a little so we can see.
Yep. Let me sort of clean this up and then I'll pull it up so you can see where I'm at. The setup is almost perfect if I could just get the table set up right. Okay, so there's my heart. I'll give her a little shake. That's pretty good, right? And then what I'm going to do is go in and put in my leopard print detail. So again, there is not really any rhyme or reason to this. What you want to do is you want to keep your piping bag really close, almost sitting on top of it. When you do this, most of the time when I do details, I will lift my piping bag a little further away. But for something like this, because you want that textured look, you want to keep it really close. I just put a really small hole in my bag and I'm applying like a decent amount of pressure to it. And you kind of just want to go in and do whatever makes you happy. Do some circles, do some half circles, do some, you know, make it look like leopard print. Sorry, I can't multitask, so I'm going to hand it over to Christy to talk.
Okay.
Sarah,
So I would, oh, go pause.
oh, now to say, can you do that with a paintbrush if you wanted to, or no?
You could. I like the look of doing black like this and then doing your accent color with the paintbrush, which I'm going to show you after we do this. Again, this is just my preference. There's 1,000 ways to do leopard print.
Okay.
And
When you use your paintbrush, you wouldn't be, it wouldn't be the wet on wet look.
That's
no,
true.
It would
yeah.
be the paint. It would
Maybe
be
the
the
brush on
paint
brush look.
on.
Huh?
Yeah, which would still probably be pretty for sure.
Well, and that's kind of why I like this wet on wet though, because you get more of a textured look. And for me, it's all about those little details that make things really special, right? So, I mean, if we're talking about the gnome and doing the beard in a textured way, when you're talking about doing blocks of color and allowing time in between so that you get that really defined look, it's these little things that separate out professional cookies from, you know, I don't want to say anything offensive, but it's these little things that really bring your cookies to another level. So there's my leopard print. What do you guys think?
Beautiful.
And so then, and that's kind of what I was saying. So you have to work quickly. Again, this is a very small hole in the tip of my black. I'm just going to show you really quick. Like if I were doing a line, it's all the way down here where you can't see it. If I were doing a line of this, You can see how thin it is. So it's a very small hole I put in there. I'm just keeping it really close to the icing and applying a deep, like a good amount of pressure so that you're getting sort of that, I don't know how to explain it, that sort of bumpy texture.
It's like
to it.
gruffy,
Scruffy.
like
There you go.
almost like a cement road or a cement sidewalk.
That's what you want, because you don't want it to be perfect circles and perfect half circles and things like that, because that's not what leopard print is. Are we all feeling comfortable? Look at my little bees going. They're so cute. Look at them, Christy.
I see, I love it.
So I'm going to give you guys a minute for everybody that's participating. I clearly rushed through this cookie and starting to like, my icing's flowing off a little bit, but that's okay.
That's okay. I was noticing when you were flooding, you kind of pushed your sides over, where I guess I've always kind of used my scribe and kind of circled it onto the edge, but
Yeah.
you were like just pushing it.
The problem I have with the technique of circling, which I know is, I see it a lot. I'm not, saying anything bad about the circling technique. The problem I have with the circling is I find that it creates a lot of air bubbles and it takes extra time that you don't really need to do. Like, you don't need to take that extra time if you do it, So the way that I do it is literally just, and we've all gone over this before, but I'll show you other working on that. But like, if I'm outlining this cookie, I'm going to outline it. And then when I start to flood, I leave just maybe like a 1/4 inch of space or something like that, and then flood the rest in. And then what I do is just take my scribe, I'll give her a little shake first, and then just sort of push it to the edge so that, can you guys still see? Push it to the edge so that they meet.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about
I-
that is it kind of stops it from overflowing, because what you can do is sort of push so they meet and bring it back if you have too much icing on there. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I've never noticed you do it, and I've always done the circle thing, and I find that what will happen is by the time I get around the whole cookie, one part is dry already, and then the circles like leave these waves in it, and then that doesn't go away.
Yeah, and that's the part where I don't think it's necessary. If you do it like this, where you're lining it and then flooding it and just leaving that little gap, and the gap is important. I will say, don't flood all the way to the edge, because 9 times out of 10 you will over flood. But if you leave that little 1/4 inch gap and you just take the side of your scribe, and you see, I don't even take the tip of my scribe, I take the side. So really I'm holding it like this, and I'm holding my scribe sort of at an angle, and I'm just pushing it to the edge so that they meet, and then giving it a little shake, and that's it. And you can see how perfectly flooded that 1/4 of the cookie is. But I never, I guess I understand the circle technique. It just, I never got it to be able to work for me. Because like you said, it's like by the time you've done the whole cookie, whereas this,
I didn't know any other way. I never paid attention, I guess, to you doing it, even though I always say your cookies are the best flooded cookies I've ever seen. I guess I've never actually watched you do it. It's weird.
right? Did you even watch the 101 class?
No, apparently I was just so happy that I forgot to look.
Yeah, this is how I do all of my cookies, all of them. I don't do the circle thing. And again, hopefully you guys can see, I know I'm like hovering over it, but I'm just leaving that little, not even a 1/4 of an inch, maybe an 1/8 of an inch or something like that. But it is so important to just leave that little gap so that you don't end up over flooding it. And then just push it out. And I just find it's quicker, it's easier, and I get a nicer result. And even if I don't like, let's say, you know how when you do the circle thing, you can kind of create those areas that you don't like exactly where you outline. I can just sort of use this to do that in like a half circle. So I can do these little half circle motions where I'm not necessarily doing a full circle and push it out a little bit. I don't know. For me, this is how my brain works. I never understood the whole circle, circle, circle thing. I think it's air bubbles. It creates ripples. It's a mess. And I'm lazy. I don't want to do all that. And I don't want it to take forever. This is easy for me. This is quick and this is easy. So yeah, that's exactly how I do it. And you can see most of the time I get a really beautiful, clean result. My icing isn't going to overflow, nothing. So, oh my gosh, it looks so cute.
Thank you. Oh,
Good.
wait, let me make it big. Let me make it big. Oh,
perfect.
my gosh.
It's perfect. Now
I
just
think
put
my
let it back a little bit.
I think my
Hold on,
black
let me-
is too thick.
Let me see. No,
Oh
your black,
my gosh.
your black
But
is more,
it's not like bleeding in. It's just sitting there.
it's kind of sitting. That's how mine is. Like, okay, if I don't know if you can see it, but like
Hold on, let me make you big, Sarah.
you later. I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, that's how mine
Hold it.
looks.
Yeah, so if you run your finger over it, you're gonna get, this is dry, this is from earlier, obviously. You're gonna get that little bit of texture. And I like that. So my black is like a thicker detail black. And that's what I was saying, like, you saw the line that I did. And I just apply that extra pressure. And I like that because you get that texture to it that, I don't know how to explain it. But yes, that's how mine looks. The only thing that I would say is next time you could either make the hole a little bigger or apply a little more pressure so that you're getting a little more definite, so that the black is going to end up being a little thicker. That's it though. That's the same consistency as my black. Yeah, you guys are doing so great. I love it. It's so cute.
Marla, you ready or no? Oops.
I gave up and remixed all my, made them
Okay,
bloodier.
no problem.
Don't stress, Marla.
I'll do that one later.
All right, I'm gonna go back to the cookie real quick. And I'm gonna go ahead and put my next color block in, which for me is gonna be white. And the one thing I do want to mention about this is I tend to do these in bulk, right? So let's say I'm doing, a dozen or 2 dozen of them or whatever. I'll go in and put all my red areas, then go back and do all my teal and then all my white or whatever. You don't want to wait too long in between doing it. Like you don't want it to be completely dry because for whatever reason, I find that I get a lot of color bleeding when I let it dry completely. If it's still wet and just barely, crusted over, then I do not get that color bleeding in the different sections.
Got it.
No, I'm not loving my white, so just ignore me for a second while I nitpick. So that's where I'm at with that. I have 3 sections down, 1 to go. And as soon as you guys let me know you're ready from that, I'm going to revisit the gnome.
So fast.
Sorry. Then that's why I'm like, I don't mind waiting. I don't mind whatever you guys need. And
Oh, you hear me? Oh, shoot, sorry, take me off. You're gonna,
I'll mute you. I'll mute you. Poor Marla.
like I did an online class last summer and I tried to keep up with her when she was doing it live and I ended up just throwing everything down and giving up. And I had to come back the next day and watch the video so that I could keep pausing and like zooming in and looking and pausing and all that. So don't stress about, you know, being exactly where I'm at or anything like that. It's not, you know.
That's right. You can just say whatever you want. We're not here to judge. You can cuss up a storm if you don't like it. We just
Everybody
just take it all.
because I get judged for it.
I don't judge you.
But also I'm an instructor, so I
just-
probably shouldn't.
Just oh, Marla's giving us a thumbs up. I just kindly remind you that
I don't realize I'm doing
excessive cussing may be frowned upon.
fine. All right, where we at? We good to revisit our gnome? All right, so I don't think I told you guys to have any kind of flesh color or anything like that ready, so my bad. So just pick a color for his nose. We can give him a red nose, a pink nose, whatever you have, and you want to use your detail consistency, not the flooding. The thicker one that we're going to use for details, you want to use that. So I'm going
If
to
they wanted to mix up some flesh real quick, could they just take some of their excess white and
Yeah,
make a
absolutely.
little splotch of it?
Yeah, you do whatever. I actually made a little nose earlier out of, I just made one that I could just plop in here too. You can absolutely do that too. See my little nose that I just, because I realized
Yeah.
I didn't tell you guys. So for the nose, really, really easy. Literally, this is the only time I will ever tell you that you don't need to outline. Just start in the middle and sort of go around until you have a big blob of icing that looks real ugly like that. And then just take your scribe and sort of, I don't even want to say
Scoot up a
smooth
little.
down. You just kind of want to, I don't know, zhuzh it around a little bit because you want to kind of let it fall
Scoot it up a
into,
tiny bit.
you want to let it fall into that space that you prepared for it. But because you did everything else in advance, it should sit up a little over it. And we're using that detail consistency. So it shouldn't like fall flat and sit right against it. And I'm not going to lift mine up because, well, I'm not going to do it sideways because I don't want it to run. But you should get like a little hill of nose. I'm so eloquent, right? A little hill of nose. I don't even know what that means, but you guys,
So cute.
my little hill of nose. The other thing I try and do with these classes, though, by the way, is I don't want you to create any specific colors or do anything for like tiny little details. So that's probably why I left out the flesh tone. I don't want you to have to create like, you know, a spot of flesh tone.
This
How
is
we
the
doing?
cutest
Show us
thing
Kelly.
ever. It's so cute.
Hey,
I'm obsessed with the gnome.
And do you see the difference in the nose from the one that you showed us earlier? How
Oh
it
yeah, for sure.
kind of creates that, and it's those little details that people don't think about.
And
that
even
really bring it to life.
the definition between the beard and the body,
Yep.
it's just better.
And you know what? For a gnome like that, because you have the beard sitting in the middle, what I would do is I would actually flood the beard white, and then I would go back and put a thin layer of white on top of it after it dried, and then do the sprinkles on it so that it really stood out more. That way you get that super definition on it. Like mine, it's a lot easier because his beard is already kind of defined, you know. But with one like that, that's how I personally would handle it so that you get that really fluffy looking beard.
Natasha, you gonna show us your gnome circle? No. Okay. It's okay.
I can show you the pretty hearts that I put on top of the diamond, but yeah.
Let's see.
We want to see it.
Okay,
Hold on, let me spotlight you.
Oh, look how cute. Your hearts look cute.
Aww.
I'm not gonna
That's the
show
best
you
gnome
guys.
ever.
That's all right.
I made it out of the ring, guys. It looks. I can't stop laughing. It's hilarious.
Oh,
Let me just see it real quick.
okay, well, We believe you.
Even know what that was.
I got the technique down, but like the gnome is not there.
I don't know what class Natasha's taking.
You know what? It's the technique that she's learning. It's not the shape. We are not here to criticize.
No, it's all love. It's all love. I'm just
Oh.
messing.
Y'all, that's it. Our gnome is done. Like that guy is done. He's out the way. And again, this is a really cool kind of, it's the technique that you want to take away from it. You could apply it to a whole lot of things. I mean, let's say you wanted to do like a cute little like bear that had a hat on or something like that, and you want to add texture to the bear, make it brown and then use some sugar, some fine sugar, some sanding sugar, whatever, and throw it on top of the bear and create that textured look, have fun with it and try these things on other things. Don't think that it has to be specifically for a gnome or whatever. Like I said, this technique, I use a lot at Christmas time for snow on houses, on things like that, Santa's beard, all of that. I just love where you can bring in any kind of texture and make it different and make it, just a little more interesting. So our gnome is done. My gnome has a huge nose, but my gnome is done. So we're just going to push those aside. We're going to let that sit for just another minute. We've got our leopard print drying over there. And so what I want to talk about real quick is this one, which I pre-did the flooding on and everything, but and I was going to show you, but I didn't make enough cookies because I am ill prepared as usual, even though I was ready for this class and I was like, I finally am super prepared, and then oops. So I pre-did more of this than I meant to. But basically all I did with this guy is flooded it and then threw some sprinkles on here while it was still wet. And you want to do this in a conscious way. And I say that because if you want to take this cookie and you want to add the face on, which is what I'm going to show you in a minute, you want to make sure that when you're putting sprinkles on, when you're doing whatever you're doing, that you're allowing enough room for whatever other design you want to put on there. So if you decide, oh, I just want to do half of it in sprinkles or whatever, then go forth and conquer and have fun with it. But if you decide, okay, these are going to be my face cookies, they're going to have a smile or whatever, put them on in a really conscious way. I've gone so far as to even use tweezers to put my sprinkles on when I'm doing like these big ones like this, because I just don't want them to fall awkwardly and mess up my whole design for my cookie. So, just think about that kind of thing when you're doing that. And so this one is literally just going to be flood, throw some sprinkles on, and then we're going to put a face on her and she's going to be super, super cute. And I'm going to give you guys a minute to do that.
I'm super excited about this one.
Isn't this one cute? And this is another this is my other fleece that I do.
I like those little eyeballs too. Like, did you do one whole ball and then like did another half little ball?
Yeah. So, I started doing these when I worked at the bakery in El Paso I guess it was like 2 years ago or something like that. Because me and the other cookie decorator, Brenda, for the life of us, we could not get our eyes to be the same size ever. And this is at a bakery where you want to do like fast pace. So you don't want to have to set up a projector for everything or like trace everything or all that. We just could not, for the life of us, get these eyes right. And one day they just kind of melded together and we were like, oh, that's much better. We're just going to do these little cartoon eyes, and then they don't have to be the same size. And one can be big and one can be small and whatever. And then we ended up finding some pictures just to, kind of give us some idea on how to like design the little face with it. But yeah, that's really it, is I start with this one and just do a really big one. And then I do like a small circle and then just sort of push it out is the easiest way to do that. And I can show you that.
Sonia had a question. What if you aren't good at drawing, but want to make a face?
Girl, I can't draw. I can't draw to save my life. I can't. My handwriting is atrocious. My drawing is terrible. God help, I did a painting class one time, and we were cleaning out the garage last week, and my husband was like, "Oh, I found one of the kids' paintings." And I'm like, "That's mine. That's my painting." But thanks. So no, you do not have to be able to draw to do a face. What I would recommend is, if you're worried about it being symmetrical or whatever the case is, take your scribe after your cookie is dry and just sort of do a little, I don't know if you can see where I did it on here. You can just sort of do a little trace with your scribe, or you can even get like an edible marker or something that's close to the same color, and just kind of put where you want your eyes to be. But no, please know that I have not one artistic bone in my body. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. You just have to kind of, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, but you kind of got to work with what you've got, right? So I know I can't draw. So what I'm not going to do is make these super intricate faces or anything like that. What I'm going to do is lean more towards a cartoon kind of look, because I know that, like I said, I can make the eyes bigger or smaller. I could, I know that my strong suit is fine lines. So I really like these faces where I can do just the little eyelids and the smile and things like that, because that is my strong suit. You just got to kind of figure out what works for you, but by all means, don't think that you need to be an artist to do faces, because you don't at all. And I'm just going to do some eyeballs on this gnome right here. So to answer your question, Christy, what I do is I start small, and I do a detail consistency.
Pull it up. Okay. Pull it up a little bit. Yeah. I know it's hard for you
I know,
because it's got to be like, you're like holding it out here.
because I just tend to work so close. So I start
Yeah.
small and I do a detail consistency. And then just sort of, this is where you want to do those circles. I just sort of bring it to wherever it flows, kind of, for lack of a better. And then all I'm going to do is, bring it up, is put another one sort of right next to it so that it's just barely touching. And then spread that guy out. And again, you want to use the detail consistency for these, because if you use the flooding, they'll just kind of merge together into one big blob. And then I just kind of put my eyes wherever I think they belong. And there's my super, super creepy eyes in the middle of my gnome that's not flooded with anything else.
It definitely seems super easy. And you don't let it cross over or anything. You just do back to back.
Yeah, because you want it to flow together. Like if you look at this one, you can see there's no like, it's all one big piece, there's no like differentiate.
Yeah, I see that.
One eye from another. So yeah, I just do it all at one time. And then, and they always look super weird at first. So for these kind of eyes, I always end up doing like, some little surprised eyebrows or whatever the case is. And y'all, literally, I promise, I cannot draw. We were at trivia the other night and I was drawing a picture for my husband and it was a stick figure horse.
We're going to play Pictionary when we go to Reno.
Oh, well, it was embarrassing. That's why. How are we doing? We good? Okay, let's do the last section on here. Oh, I got all my icings mixed up and they're all in little bags.
Uh-oh. Pull your cookie up a little bit though.
Yep.
Do a little section on the counter, on the paper, and then maybe you can tell which is which.
Oh no, I figured it out. I just was moving them around so I didn't. keep doing it. So I'm just gonna fill in this last section here.
Christy, here's mine. Let me show you my, what do you call it, gnome?
Yeah.
But mine was made, I didn't have the cutter, so I used a carrot,
What a carrot. Hold
like a
on.
carrot. So I made
Oh
it.
my goodness.
Oh my God.
My brain.
It's adorable.
See, these cookies are from Christmas, and I didn't have time to make them. So what I
Oh
did was I
my
cut all the shapes into what I needed. So this is a carrot that I used, and it can't. I just used the top part of the carrot.
That is the cutest carrot. No. Aw. What else you got? Anything? Did you try the leopard print?
Yes, it's made out of all these cookies
Wanna
are
show
old,
us?
so they're for Christmas.
We
try.
won't eat them.
Yeah.
I have them in a container in over on my thing, and I just have all
That
my
is
extra
so
that I never got around
good.
to decorating, and I use them for practice.
Sarah, here's these
Pause.
lips.
That one was.
I don't
Oh,
know
they're
what else-
cute.
Whoa, Mamma
What should be added to it? It looks so plain. Or it's
So,
still
and I remember I said I was going to touch on the lips. So here's how I do the lips, and I don't have any to show you, but you know how with this cookie we went and we did the sectioning and then kind of waited and so that you get that definition. That's how I do lips as well. So I'll take the lips and I'll like draw that little middle line that you want to separate the top from the bottom, and then do the top part of the lip, let it dry, crust over for a couple minutes, and then do the bottom part. It makes a big difference. And then you get that sort of design without having to do too much work to it.
so kind of do the top, just like the top of the lip,
Yep. And
then
then
go to the
and
bottom
then-
and then go back.
exactly. Yep. And then
Ah.
what I'll do even is like with mine, once it was dried, I took some edible glitter and just put it where the separation was in between the two sections so that you get that like little hint of glitter. So there's a couple things you could do just to zhuzh them up a little so that they're not, because I feel the same way. I'm like, the lips just look so plain. That's why I don't do a lot of them.
Yeah, they do. They look plain.
So how we doing, y'all? We feeling good? We looking good? We got our gnomes. We got our heart cookie completely flooded now. We got our 4 different sections. Everybody's looking a little frustrated now. It was all happy earlier, and now we're getting we're looking a little frustrated. Oh, how's it going? Do you guys want to see my little face on here? While you're
Yes.
working on whatever. So again, what I did with this cookie is I just went through and took my scribe and sort of put where I want my eyes and my smile to be. You don't have to do that by any means. I just did it so because in these classes I get a little flustered and I didn't want you to think that I couldn't tell where eyes go. So super easy. All I end up doing is a little line here, a little line here, and then just pull out some eyelashes, and literally all you're going to do is kind of like we did the hearts. You just kind of put the tip of your bag on that line and pull out. And as you pull out, you want to stop applying pressure so that you end up getting like that winged look instead of just a flat line, if that makes sense. And then I'm going to do a little smirk and a little dimple on her, and that's it, like it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a cute little heart with a smile on it. And you can tell all mine look a little different. They're never like, they're not twins. They're distant cousins from, through marriage, twice divorced or whatever. So they're not all going to look the same. They kind of all have their own unique personality, but I like the idea of these cookies because they are so simple, but still you get such a fun, pretty end product. And you don't have to do You don't have to do faces like this. If you wanted to pull out a projector, you could write love on there. You could do XOXO on them. There's tons of things you can do. And just by adding this little, these sprinkles in the right area, you're making it so dynamic. You know, it's not just a regular cookie. It's now something that's a little more special. So there's tons you can do with it. What's wrong? I see a lot of confused looks, especially from Kelly. Oh, I love
Okay,
that
let's
green.
go to
Kelly
Natasha
has a lot of
first.
confusion.
Hold on.
Oh, that's adorable.
It's so cute.
And that color, my
I love that
gosh.
green. But you see what I mean about the sprinkles? You put them on there in a way that makes sense so that you have room to do the other stuff. I love it. It's so
Mhm.
cute.
Okay, now we're gonna show Kelly.
What's
So
up?
That's nice.
I pre-flooded all of my big hearts. So I did this guy in like a little one. So I couldn't do the sprinkles, but I just did like a drizzle. And it's not, it like went on the edge, and can you go over that?
So here, a couple things. So if you want to do something like that, you have to think of them more as clean lines and less of them less like a drizzle. Okay. That's the first thing I'm going to say, but there is a way to clean that up, which I will show you in just a second. But what you don't want to do is treat it like a drizzle. So
Eat it. That's how you clean it up. You just eat the cookie.
yeah, you could do that. But basically, if you're doing a drizzle, you're doing like this, right? Like kind of like we would with chocolate. Whereas if you treated something like that, more like you're doing clean lines, and I'm going to do it on this one so I don't mess that one up in case I need to do something else, but I'm just going to scrape her face off so it doesn't get in my way. But think about it more like lines and less like a drizzle. So if you want to do a design in the corner like that, super cute, super easy, right? And if you don't want to have to worry about making them all super straight or anything like that, then you can absolutely do a little like S motion, right? And then that way you're putting your tip here, you're dragging it over and you're putting it down here so that you're not getting that mess on the side of the cookie. And then what you do is just use that as your guide to do the rest of your lines. If you want to do them in different colors, whatever the case is. And the nice thing about doing something like lines is you don't even have to do them all in lines. Like, let's say you do those couple lines, and then I'm going to come back in here with my teal and just follow along that initial line and do some little dots there. So when you're doing something like that, just remember that it's not chocolate. You know, it's very hard to do something like a drizzle or something like that on cookies. Make it intentional, make it a line, make it, and then just use that initial one as your guide to be able to do the other ones. And if you're not comfortable with, you know, like doing lines next to each other, spacing, do the little dots, do something like that. It's super easy to do. That teal is hard to see on the red, but then you get something that's a little cleaner and a little more the look that you're looking for. Does that make sense?
And one thing I did maybe notice with Kelly's was her, it was kind of thick too, like maybe she would need a thinner hole.
Yeah, you'd need a thinner icing in general if you wanted to do any kind of drizzle on it or anything like that. The only time I end up doing anything like that is like around Halloween. I'll do like blood splatter, and it's always very, very, very thin icing, just because it gets on the cookie and all of that. Now, if you wanted to clean it up, if you have little scissors or you have a little, like one of those little blades or anything like that, all you want to do is wait for it to dry a little and take the very tip of it and just go sort of around your cookie and take that top section off. Or you can even do this with a little microplane if you wanted to do that too, but it's such a small section that I would just take the end of some scissors and do it that way, or a little blade, and you can absolutely clean it up, or you could just eat it, whatever makes you happy.
What consistency would you use for the lines? Is that a detail?
That is a detail, yes.
Okay.
Because you don't, when you're doing lines and things like that, you definitely want to use a detail because you don't want them to flow together. You don't want them to like start spreading or anything like that. So yes, those are definitely my detail consistency.
Sarah, it's Karen. I got a question.
What's up?
Couldn't Kelly take her scribe and go through those lines, kind of like how you go up and down and make like those, almost like those, they're not really swirls, but
Yeah, I know what you mean, like where you do the wet on wet and you kind of drag your scribe through.
yeah, yeah.
Problem with doing that on an already dry cookie is you don't get the same effect. If you have a dry cookie and you're doing something like, you know, putting lines on it and then you take your scribe and put it through there, you're never going to get that same effect like when you have a wet cookie. You're just going to get these little points, if that makes sense. And the other thing too is your scribe is going to scratch up your cookie because it's already dry. So on a dry cookie, no. On a wet cookie, absolutely. But my suggestion still would be, if you're trying to do it intentionally on a cookie where you're trying to put it in a certain spot so that you have room for a face or words or anything like that, is just keep it intentional and do one line, start it, you know, in the middle of where you want it, and then use that as your guide to do whatever else you want to do around it. That's how I would approach it. Again, my word is not gospel. It's just how I do things. So how you guys doing? You want to finish off this cookie? Because this kind of goes the same direction as what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Cool. So,
I mean, we can't do the, we cannot do the gold until it's like dry, like tomorrow, right?
I don't know yet. Let's finish this one and then I'll let you know. Let's do this one and then I'll test it out for you and see if we can. So for
Sounds
this
good.
cookie, and it's kind of hard to see here, it was easier to see in the picture. I do, thank you. I see Kelly's face. So I do these very minimal details on there, but it makes such a huge difference. Don't hide from us. I like the Kelly face. So these details, while they look really like special, really intricate, they're not. I promise you, they're lines and they're dots. And we're going to go over it real quick, but it makes such a huge difference on this cookie and makes it look so dynamic and so pretty when it's done that I just absolutely love it. So what you want to do is have all your colors. Remember I said you needed all those colors in detail consistency. So you want to have all those colors ready, or, you know, 2 of them or 3 of them or whatever makes you happy. Again, this is not science. This is just for fun. So I'm going to start with my, and I really like the look of doing the same color on top of it. I think it just ends up so pretty and so classic looking, but you can absolutely mix up the colors and do like, you know, red on teal or pink on white or whatever you want to do. I just prefer this look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the red and I'm going to fix my bag because nothing's coming out. Hold on. I'm going to start with the red and all I'm going to do is one little line close to where the red and the teal meet. I would say maybe a 1/4 of an inch, if that. So I just did one little line and I'm going to pick this up in between every step so that y'all can see it. But I just did the one little line right there. Can you see my line? That went right there.
Yeah.
And you just want to keep it sort of consistent and have it be that same distance from the edge. And then what I'm going to do is on the side of it, not the side closest to teal, but the outside of it, I'm going to go and just do a couple of really small dots with my red detail. And again, I'm going to lift this up so that you guys can see. And I'm going to keep these really close. Oh, okay, I'm lifting it too much now, but that's okay. You guys are worth messing up my cookies. I'm going to keep it really close to that line and just do a couple little dots so that you get that texture and that like really pretty, all it is dots, y'all. I promise. And we're just going to ignore that fingerprint on the other side because, you know, yeah.
typically you would wait for it to get dry to do that?
I actually wouldn't. I tend to do this all, like, I do it in stages. So like I said, I'm usually doing a dozen or 2 dozen of these, right, to mix and match in sets. And what I would do is go through, do all my colors, and then go back and start doing my details. Because you don't have to wait for it to dry completely. I just wouldn't pick it up and move it around as much. So the chance of me
Okay.
sticking my finger in the side of it is much less when I'm doing it like that. I just want to keep picking it up and holding it close to the camera so you guys can see.
We appreciate that a lot.
So on my second one, my teal one, and I'm going to sort of follow the look of this cookie, but you can do anything, I promise. But on my teal one, I'm just going to go again in that same spot that I did the red, where the teal meets the white. I'm going to follow the line that I did before and just stay maybe 1/8 of an inch out. So I'm literally just starting my line here and kind of following that same design and doing a line there. And then for the teal one, I'm just going to do another line right next to it. So not even 1/8 of an inch away. I'm going to do another line and follow that same pattern. And then hold on, I will lift this up so you guys can see. Can you see that?
Perfection.
Yeah, I mean, this is ridiculous.
This is really, I'm telling you, this is not difficult stuff. It's just practice. But I'm not doing
Okay, I trust you.
here. And then the white one is the really cute one, okay? So the white one looks really fancy. Like somebody told me it looked like a zipper and I was like, it's not, but it's cute. So again, I'm going to start with that baseline where I'm going to do it close to where the white and the pink meet. And then what I'm going to do is put a second line the same way I did with the teal, okay? So I'm basically doing 2 white lines the same way I did with the teal on the white part, where I'm going to follow that sort of motion that I did here. And then I'm going to do another line right next to it, maybe 1/8 of an inch away. All right. And then for this one, what I'm going to do is in between those 2 lines, I'm going to go back and put a bunch of little dots really close together. Not so close that they touch, but really close. And I'm going to show you what it's going to look like. Let me do a couple so that you can see it before you guys do it. So they're going to look like this. See how close they are? But they're going to be in between the 2 white lines. And you just want to do that all the way up. And again, you want your detail consistency so that you're not having these dots spread, but it's not so thick that you're ending up with like points on it. And let me know if I'm not describing this well, because I am doing my best here.
Okay, so
You
Sarah,
really are.
Sarah, when you're talking about your flooding, is your outline icing the same as your detail icing?
No, my outline is the same as my flooding. So I outline and flood with the same consistency.
And then the detail is thicker?
Yes, and the detail is thicker.
Okay.
All right, how we doing? We got our lines? All right, so now I'm going to finish it up with the pink. And again, I'm just going to do 1 line near where the pink and the white meet. I'm not even going to do the second line on here because my pink's kind of thick. So I'm just going to do that 1 line. And then I'm going to finish it off the same way I did this cookie. And literally all I did is put a line sort of at the corner there and then did dots on either side. And the way that I do my dots is sort of in a, I don't know, zigzag pattern, so that they're not sitting right on top of each other. They're like in between each other, if that makes sense. And so this, just ignore my fingerprint, is going to be your end result.
That's beautiful.
How we doing? You guys stressing? Don't stress. It's supposed to be fun.
The only reason I'm stressed is because I didn't follow the rules and I don't have detailed consistency. But again, I have the technique, so that's all that matters.
For something like this, it's so important to have that detail consistency because you're just not going to get the definition that you want for something like this without doing that thicker icing. You're like, I know, I'm trying, and it's not working.
If I'm getting points on my dots,
Cute though.
it's too thick.
If you're getting points on your dots, it is too thick. Yes.
Okay.
And that's how I always tell. I will say this, I will die on this cross, I'm telling you, and you guys will hear me say it over and over again. 9 times out of 10, if you are having problems with text or details or fine lines or anything like that, your royal icing is too thick. It has been embedded in our brains to make it super thick, and you don't want it to be so thick that it ends up giving you peaks on your icing because then it doesn't flow back into itself correctly. But yes, but
Natasha,
as long as you get the technique, you can identify where the problems are with the consistency of the royal, then we're good. We're going to call this class a success. So
Natasha, do you want to show us that again? Because I didn't get to see a close up.
yeah, she does.
You can totally see my melted lines and whatnot.
But you know what though? I can look at that and tell you that if you did detailed royal, you would have this technique perfect.
Okay, well, that makes me happy.
Yeah.
Good.
Like, and you know you know where you went wrong. Like, you know what the issue is, but just the look of it and how well you did, like, I can see where your lines are going and all that. I can tell you for certain that if you did detailed icing consistency and tried it again, you would get this same look that I have. So there you go. Call it a win.
Big win.
And I'm gonna show you guys how to finish this leopard print really quick. But Christy's right. You probably want to wait till tomorrow to finish yours. But I'm going to show you how to do it so that we don't have to schedule another class for tomorrow for something like that. Because mine is dry enough that I think I can pull it off. Except I don't know what happened to my gold. All right.
Uh-oh.
My leopard print is getting filled in with red.
I bet that's going to be pretty.
I think so too. That's why I'm not even mad about it. So I'm using some of this powdered red. Again, 9 times out of 10, when I do leopard print, I'm using either gold or silver. So I'm going to use a powder, but you can absolutely use just food coloring, like gel food coloring. The only difference is when you use gel food coloring, I would thin it out with a little bit of water instead of alcohol. Because doing the alcohol with the gel makes it really thick, really quick. And you just don't need it with the gel food coloring. You just thin it out with a little bit of water. That's how I would do it. But for this, because I am doing it, I swear I had other brushes. Bundle Joy, hand me a brush. From right there. Something that's a little thicker than this one. Sorry, I'm talking to my kid. Give me 1 second.
We don't mind.
Something that's a little thicker than that one.
Marla, how you doing? Yay or nay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to use a brush it's not a super small detail brush. It's one of these that's, a little thicker because you don't want to have to be here all day using one of these tiny ones because you'll be sitting here trying to fill it in forever. So I'm going to use something that's more this size, and I actually will put a little more on here than you would think because I want it to spread a little bit and give it that sort of natural, I'm going to use the term natural loosely, but so all I'm going to do is, again, I took the red powder food coloring. I thinned it out with some Everclear, put it on my brush. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of gently, I'm not even going to brush. I'm just going to pat in between where my leopard print y'all, I've been talking for too long. I'm out of words at this point. I have no words left. But
It's okay. Your leopard print circles. That is
Yeah.
really cool.
this is what you want it to end up looking like. And again, this is why I like to do the painting of the middle, but the wet on wet with the outside, because when you see this in person, when you guys do this in person, you can really see the texture that you get with these, like right here, you can really see the texture right here. And again, my black it was a little thicker than you would think it would be. And I just applied a lot of pressure, but you can see how pretty this texture ends up being. And then you just take whatever color you want to fill it in with and just go back and, sort of dot it in the middle there. And you get this really cool effect. And then you don't have to rush through it. Because like I said, I could have put red down and then put the black on the outside or whatever. But then you don't have to rush through it. You can kind of paint it wherever you want it to be. And you get this really cool effect. If you're doing it now, like Tasha is, which I can see, just be really careful because the cookie is still wet. So just make sure you hold your brush to the side. Don't put the tip of your brush in there or it will crack your royal. And just be really gentle with it right now. But yeah, that's it. And again, when I do it with gold or silver or whatever, so that you get that really pretty, this kind of metallic look. And again, it's those little details that just really take it to another level. What
I'm
do you
trying
guys
to
think?
contain my excitement, but OM stinking G.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
You
gonna
want to show us yet or finish?
Let me finish. I'm almost done. I couldn't wait. I'm impatient, which is why sugar cookies are my enemy.
Me too, which is why I'm like, anything that I can just do in steps and then go back and keep going and going and going, I will absolutely do.
On the gold, how did you get it to fit all your dots so well?
So it kind of will go over, like, I don't know that you can see really well, but it will go over some areas. Like I'm not an artist by any means, so I just kind of blot it in there.
Cut it.
But I make the gold a little thicker. So the word that really sank it in for me, like when you're doing the metallics, you want it to be almost like a sludge consistency. And if you get that right consistency, then you can kind of pat it on there with a little brush and get that really good gold look without it being translucent at all.
Is that gold? That's not gold leaf?
No, this is gold luster dust or gold.
Oh, okay. Now
Yeah.
makes more sense.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, it's the gold powder.
Okay.
And again, I mix it with a little bit of alcohol until it's almost like sludgy oil consistency. And that way you can kind of pat it on with your brush and you're not going to get, it's not going to be translucent.
That makes a lot more sense than gold leaf.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you could, I've never tried it, but just take your paintbrush and smush the gold leaf into the right place. I don't know.
You could. I don't know that that would be worth it. Gold leaf is expensive and it's not something that I would use it for. And not when you can get such a cute look with just the gold powder. Oh my gosh.
Woo, baby.
So cute.
That's
That's so
beautiful.
cute.
Oh my gosh.
Now, if you want some constructive feedback, I'm not here to criticize, but some constructive feedback. Your flood icing is just a little thick. Just a little, but you're so close. Like so close, it's just a little thick. You could thin it down just a little. My flood icing, I use like a 5 or 6 second. So if you take a line and you run it over there, you want it to flow back into itself in about 6 seconds. So, but other than that, It looks awesome. It looks so good. You did great. It looks so cute.
So
Yay!
two of my the hearts were those were the successes. My poor
Yes.
little gnome, I ate him, and I'm
But you
gonna
know,
eat
that
my
other
apple.
heart, I'm still calling a success because you know where you went wrong, but you got the technique right with the
Okay.
little lines. So I'm still calling that a success because you know if you went back and you did it with the right royal consistency, you would get it right.
Okay, I will take that. Sugar cookies are not my strong suit, so I'm trying. I'm excited.
Look, for sugar cookies not being your strong suit, those are awesome. And again,
They should be now.
y'all know, and I will keep saying this, it is the little things. Just work on the little things. You know what I mean? It's the little things that make it special. It's the little things that bring you from one level to another. So start with something simple like color blocking. You know what I mean? Like take a cookie that you would normally do in one color and decide, okay, I'm going to try color blocking with this and get some practice out of it. Something instead of doing like simple lines, try doing something a little more detailed so that you can then follow those lines. And you build on, the basics. And so all of this right here is really cute and looks really fancy and fun, but it's just building on the basics, It's just color blocking and adding texture and learning how to, do things purposefully and put things in the right places. That's all. It's really not, don't get me wrong, sugar cookies are hard and you have to be really special like me to be able to get them like perfect. No, but really,
Hey, we're talking to the sugar show champion. You are pretty perfect.
Second place. This year we're shooting for first.
You guys, I got some really cute lines.
Let me see.
Oh, let me see. Let me make you big. Hold on.
So cute.
Oh,
So
See the
it
difference?
turned out better. I didn't like so I used the detail consistency this time. I like it better than this one because the
Oh, that's
consistency
so
is wrong.
cute.
But you know what?
that's cute.
Going
too.
back to that one, and I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Tasha though. You know where you went wrong, but like
Mhm.
looking at it, I can tell you that if you thinned out your royal just a little bit and cut your holes just a little bit smaller,
Mhm.
you would have it perfect. It would be
Okay.
perfect. It would. So
Can we
I'm
talk
telling.
a little bit about royal icing in a general way
Yeah.
when
What's up?
we're done talking about these cookies? So I've never decorated sugar cookies before. I did DIY kits at Christmas. And I used just a glaze because of cottage food laws. And so that's what I did. So I got a recipe from somebody in Maryland. I got somebody at my health department to tell me that it was okay to use somebody else's tested recipe as long as I had a copy of their results. So I got a recipe for Frankenfrosting. Does anybody know what that is? Does it
No.
behave?
What is it about the frosting that
I've
you
heard
can't
of it.
do with the cottage law?
The egg whites, the meringue powder, because once
Right,
it's
but-
reconstituted, it is potentially hazardous, so it has to be tested. I live in Maryland, which is apparently a very strict.
So I'm
State?
from Maryland.
I think
And
did
I
we
didn't-
cover that one?
I don't know that I would. Let me
So it's
let me look a little bit and get back to you because I think that so if they're very strict about it, I think there are certain types of meringue powder that you can use that have been tested. And because in theory, your meringue powder is not egg whites. It's not like using egg whites. You know what I mean? So most states will allow you to use it without any issues. I do think that there are certain ones that have been approved.
let me send you what I have that goes into like buttercreams and meringue powders.
Okay.
And from what I found though, generally American buttercream is and Maryland has a lower water activity level than Texas. Like we have to have it 0.85 or below versus 0.88. And there's no flexibility for if the pH is like a certain level, it has to be like either, well, I don't know. Anyway, it's just
Yeah.
all, I'm very new at this, all very complicated, but I want to use, so I have this so does anybody know what Franken frosting is?
No.
I've heard of it, but I've never used it. I'm not sure what's in it.
I don't either. I mean, I looked at it's got glycerin. So it's essentially, I'm not sure. I have the recipe. I can send it to you guys and, you can tell me what you think. But my plan was to use that for my DIY kits because I like it better than the glaze, which is a total mess and so sticky and just terrible. So I'd rather use that, but I don't know what it is or how it behaves.
If you want to send it to me, I'm happy to let you know what I think or give it a try or whatever. But send me what you have about your cottage laws, because I swear there's certain exceptions. And if you can use traditional royal made with meringue powder in your do-it-yourself kits, I find that it holds up so much better.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, this is my first time making royal icing, and I just used like the Sally's Baking Addiction, meringue powder, powdered sugar, and water, like very basic. And it was so much more pleasant to use than anything else.
And there are some, like the one that I use is like gluten-free, vegan, all that kind of stuff. And so like I said, I think there are certain exceptions if it meets certain guidelines or what. Now,
yeah, it has to be tested in Maryland. Pretty much it just has to be tested. Like if it has any dairy, any even reconstituted egg, it has to be tested.
Let me look and see, because I'm from Maryland. That's where I got started. And then I was selling a little in Georgia, and then I moved to Texas. And basically in Texas, they don't care. Basically, Texas is like, don't kill anybody and you're fine. So it's a very different ball game here than anywhere else. But I know that there's some fine print that you can look at. And when they say tested, there's certain approved recipes that they'll have, and certain, not recipes, but certain approved processes and ingredients and stuff that they'll have. They make you dig around a little bit in some of these states.
Maryland doesn't they literally, I can't, like, and they just did, I'm on a Maryland cottage food bakers group, and I guess they changed something in the last couple of years that excluded, they even say no max, because no baked meringues at all. It's crazy. It's totally insane.
Because I can't imagine not being able to use meringue powder, because the whole idea of meringue powder is that it's not eggs. You're not using egg whites. That's the whole idea of it. So
it's crazy. Well, and what I'm finding is that there's a peer-reviewed, well, I don't know if it's peer-reviewed, it's published in a university publication. So I imagine there's some level of review from Kansas where they actually tested for their state fair. They actually tested some recipes to determine if it was, people could sell those things at their state fair. And so I have this, so I feel comfortable, like if anybody would ever come to me and be like, let me see your test results, I'll be like, here's a peer-reviewed journal article that has the test result figures in it. It's just so frustrating, right? It's frustrating, but it is what it is. And I don't want to super duper break the rules. Like maybe a little.
I get that.
For like a single cake or something.
But no, I totally get that.
We can just bend them a little.
Yeah, let me see. Let me and Christy look into it a little and see what we can figure out for you, or if there's alternatives. Because I agree, a glaze is not great in do-it-yourself decorating kits. Glazes are hard. Glazes get, like you said, they get sticky. I wouldn't. Those have got to be hard to do.
Everybody loves them. Everybody loved the kits, but I did not love making that glaze and trying to put it in bags. It was horrible. So I'm not doing that again.
If you purchase a recipe that has been tested and approved in your state, you can use it. Is that what you're saying? Or you have to get it tested?
No, I do. So it depends on who you talk to. But the person I spoke with at my county health department said, if you have evidence of a valid test result for that recipe, then you can use it. Other people their health department reps have said, like in different counties, have said, you can share recipes all you want, but you have to get it individually tested, which to me is bananas.
Like, why do all
Right.
the same people have to get the exact same recipe tested? If it's tested,
Especially for something like Royal, because Royal, there's very little variation to it. I mean, as the ingredients themselves, I mean, like you can add a little corn syrup, you can do this, some people
Yeah.
use less meringue than other, but there's very little like real variation to Royal icing. So I can't imagine.
That's what-
I'm gonna look. I'm gonna
it's
find
so
out.
frustrating. And I think that the buttercream is the other one that is so maddening, because American buttercream is like such a pretty standard recipe,
Yeah.
and it's been tested and it's been validated and it's below the water activity level. So why does
Yeah.
anybody else have to ever get it tested again for the rest of humanity? And I purchased that cookbook from Texas, that cottage food baker
Yeah.
cookbook. I purchased that so that if I do have to get stuff tested, at least I know it's been tested. And the health department guy said that I can't, I mean, whatever, but that I would need to have her send me the actual test results in order for that to be like a valid.
Jesus Christ. All right, let's see what we can do for you. Let me look into it a little bit, and let's look into alternatives.
And I'll send you the document that the health department
Yeah.
person sent me that used to be posted on the website in February of last year, but is off, but it's still what all of the health department people are using. And I don't sell it at like farmers markets or anything, so I don't feel like I'll run into like big trouble, but I want to try to do the
Yeah.
right things.
Yeah, I get it. It's yeah, that's one of the redeeming qualities of Texas is they don't care what we do.
I mean, it's redeeming in some ways.
I said one of the redeeming qualities.
There are other areas where like it might be nice if they
Yeah.
guidance.
Exactly.
Other question. Can I keep this Royal and use it tomorrow and the next day?
Yeah.
How long?
You can keep it. I will keep mine in the fridge for, I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You can
Yeah.
keep it in the freezer longer. I personally do not like freezing my Royal. I find that when I thaw it out, it gets weird. And the only thing is if you leave it at room temperature, it will separate. So you'll have to mix it back together and it will thin out. But
Okay.
yeah, you can throw it in the fridge and use it. If you're going to throw it in the fridge, put it in a big Ziploc bag though, because they'll leak a little if you leave them in there for a couple days. But yeah,
I am so thankful for this community. Thank you so much for all of the help.
of course. This was a fun class. I'm so glad that a lot of you participated. I'm glad that you either got the results you wanted or got the technique or could at least see where the improvement needs to happen. I'm so proud of you, my little bees. You guys were so great tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Marla, are you okay? Are you still doing okay? Just checking in with Marla before we go.
I put us on gallery view, so I don't know. Can you see us?
Probably doesn't like really sell, but I did this. This is, I don't have a steady enough hand.
Oh, it's cute.
It's-
You're getting there. You got it. You got the idea.
That looks good, Marla.
Looks like a 2-year-old.
It is.
Oh no.
I,
Oh,
Oh.
you know how I had all my icing was too thick. Well, and then I went and I thinned it down, but I didn't leave any that was thick. So now I have all thin icing all over the place. I did manage to get a nose.
oh, very nice. See, your royal looks very smooth.
Yes. So I didn't know if there was a way to, because yours looks like it's wearing a dress. Mine looks like pants.
I think it's just the cut of the cookie cutter.
And then that's just plain ugly, but it was practical.
No,
Cute.
I love that one.
cute.
The smile and like,
Your royal looks good there, though. It looks very smooth and shiny. Your royal looks good.
well, because I redid it. I mean, this is my favorite one I redid.
That looks good.
Woo, mama.
So
Pretty.
beautiful.
Yeah.
How is your guys'
job.
Royal so shiny? Does it have corn syrup in it?
No.
I do corn syrup in mine.
Oh, and I just wrinkled it. Oh, bummer.
I did that when I flipped over my red one. I wrinkled it. I was so happy because I was like, oh my gosh. And I lifted it and it was like crink, crink, crink. So there's like cracks in it. But I put corn syrup in my pink and
That's supposed to make it shiny.
Yeah, it's really shiny. So if you put a little bit of corn syrup in your royal icing, it'll give you that little glossy look.
That's what I do. I put about a tablespoon for every 4.5 pounds of sugar. So it's not a lot. It's just enough to give it that like little shimmer. And then I think it depends on how you mix your royal too and how long you do it. I find that now that I mix my royal a lot longer, I get more of a shiny look instead of the matte look that I used to get. Because I used to mix it, just enough to get it all mixed in. And now I mix it and I let it spin on low for probably 7, 8, 9 minutes, something like that, just to get it all really good worked in. And I find I get a much shinier look.
Yeah.
So it's those little things.
When you mix it, do you mix it to detail consistency and then pull out and then separate it, do the colors, and then pull out some and add water?
Okay, so yes, just here's what I'm going to say about that. Remember that when I'm doing cookies, I'm doing them in bulk, right? And so I'm doing a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen, 4 dozen at a time, right? So I mix it, and when it's mixed, after my 7, 8, 9 minutes or whatever, it is a very thick consistency, right? Very, very thick. And so I use that and I thin it down to my flooding consistencies. And then I flood all my cookies. And then generally what I'm doing is I'm using the same kind of color scheme for my details, just in different ways. So then what I'll do is anything I have left from flooding, I'll then take and thicken it up to make it detail consistency. That's just what works for me so that I don't have waste. But it depends on how much you're doing and all of that kind of stuff. So
that makes perfect sense. I knew there was a logical solution.
That's exactly how I do it. And that way, like I said, then anything I have left over from flooding, I don't just have tons of bags of flooding consistency royal left over, because then I can just put it in a bowl really quick, mix in some powdered sugar, and I've got a detail consistency. And it's the same color for the most part. So
can I also see your arrow one more time?
Oh yeah, I didn't even.
I just saw my blank arrow and realized I didn't do anything to it.
And this was
I spotlighted it.
really easy. I didn't even realize we didn't get to it, but all I did was pipe to heart here and then the lines.
Perfect.
And the most part about this is just the lines and getting them in the same, getting them to look consistent.
I totally.
This is a really easy design, and I actually have another arrow too somewhere that I used for my set. That I did the love on.
Cute. That
I
is
like
so
that.
stinking cute.
Thank you. And this was actually way easier than I thought. I just looked up love on Google and projected it on there and did that. And then I actually had an issue with this where my white kept getting stuck. So I just peeled it off and did a red line there, and it looks intentional. So,
So cute.
don't stress about anything. You can always fix it. It's the moral of that story.
I have one question for you. So
Yeah.
I cut these out, the little quote.
Yeah.
Cookie things. What would you do with it? Like, cause I'm like, you obviously would flood it one color and then put like a little saying on there or whatnot, but is there anything additional you could do with it?
I would actually, this is one of the few times that I would actually outline it in a different color. So if I were doing it, I would do a really bold, thick outline. Let's say you want to do it in like a red or a blue or something like that, right? And then I would flood it with white. And so that you get that like really contrasting colors. And
you
then
would
do
almost
little,
immediately, like a wet on wet type situation, outline it and then flood immediately.
no, I would outline it, let it dry a little bit, and then flood the inside. This is the one time, one of the few times that I would do it like that. Generally, I don't do that. Generally, I'm like, the outline and flood should be one They should merge together. But for cookies like that, and sometimes with like some of these like plaque cookies and things like that, and I'll show you really quick an example of what I mean. I think that you get a better look when you do something bold like that. So I'm going to show you really quick on this arrow. And that might be too thick, but we'll see. So I'm just going to do really quick this like, no, it's perfect. Thick outline in teal. And this is my detail consistency. This is not my flood outline consistency. I know I'm lifting it up so y'all can see.
That is so satisfying to watch.
Oh, thank you. So if I'm doing it like this, then I would let this dry for a little bit normally, like not tonight because we're out of time. But then I would let this dry for a little bit and then come back in with like a white or a much lighter color or something like that and flood the inside. And that way you get like that really cool, almost cartoonish look, which is kind of what you want when you do cookies like that, right? That kind of comic book, like cartoon look. You obviously want it to look nicer than this, but hopefully you get the idea of what I'm going for. And then that way you just get like sort of that, see, this is why you have to wait for it to dry though, because you don't want it to merge together. You want these to actually be two separate things.
Right.
But if I were doing a cookie like that, this is kind of the direction that I would go. Because then you don't have to do a lot to it to still get that really cool, like cartoonish look. But yeah, you want it, if you waited and you didn't do the,
That is still super beautiful.
thank you. But if you waited and didn't do the flood so quickly, you would get a more defined outline, right? So then you could go back in and you could put your words, you could do some little dots around the outside, something like that, and make it super cute like that. That is one of the few times that I would use that kind of technique.
Sarah, it's Karen. Would you do the words in the outline color or in black?
It depends on the look that you're going for. If you're looking for like that really comic book look, I'd probably do them in black or gray, even, or, you know, something like that. If you're trying to do it for like a party or an event or something like that, and you want to color match, then you maybe match it to the outline. It really depends on the look that you want to go for. But yeah, for that comic book look, I would do like a bold color outline like this, flood it in white, and then do like the words or whatever in black.
I got you.
That's just off the top of my head, like what I would do with it, something like that. That's all.
Sarah, I have a question. What's the easiest way, if you can't write and your script is not good, what's the easiest way if you don't have a projector or something? Should I look for stencils or what? How would I find something so that it looks nice? The wording looks nice.
There is a really cool trick that you can do with a pencil. And I think it may be something that Christy and I can do like a little tutorial on, because it's something that I don't have everything to show you how to do it right now. But basically what you could do is kind of color in one side of a paper and then put it on your dried cookie, and then take something and sort of write out whatever text you're trying to do, and you get like this little outline, if that makes sense. So you can, like, let's say that you printed something off of a printer that said hello or whatever, you could just trace it onto the cookie, and then you would get this like little faint, I'm not describing it really well, but there is a technique that is very cool. The other thing you can do really easily is, let's say that you printed something that said, you know, hi or hello or whatever, right? If you put it down on your flooded cookie and you take your scribe, you can literally just do connect the dots, and like this. And this is a really wet cookie, so these are going to be really big dots, but it'll come out a lot smaller. So if I had a piece of paper over there and I was like tracing over it, you could do like a connect the dot kind of thing to show you where your words should be.
Yeah,
And
okay.
if the cookie is completely dry and not wet like this one, then you won't get these huge dots that you can, you'll get like really little subtle faint things, and that'll be really easy to trace over with your royal. So this is probably the
Okay.
easiest way to start, but there is another technique that I'm going to look up a tutorial for and see if I need to make one or whatever it is. But there is a really cool way where you just kind of shade it in, and then I don't know if Christy knows
It
what I'm talking
appears
about.
on there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
I took a class on that, so I know this one was very intricate. Like she did it with a bunny, like a Easter bunny, mom and daughter, and she like did that exact thing where she colored the whole thing with the pencil and then just had her shape that she wanted and then went over it, so it pushed the outline
It's hard
onto
to
the cookie.
describe, right? But that's exactly the same thing that I'm talking about, but it's really hard to explain
Yeah.
without like seeing it. But the easiest way is to just do this like little connect the dot thing to start with. But me and Chrissy can definitely figure out how to do a tutorial on that. Because it's a good way
Yeah,
to start. And especially if you don't want to invest in like a projector or something like that, while still getting a clean look without having to spend all the money on something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Christy.
Any other question? Oh no, I just said yeah for sure.
See, that's
Anybody else
adorable.
have anything?
I'm just like over here, like putting hearts on the cookie line.
It's so cute.
Yes, it is.
Does anybody have any other questions?
Well, it's storming here, so I don't even know what time it is.
It's past my bedtime.
Oh my gosh.
It's past my
How
bedtime.
did you let me talk so long? Okay. Any other questions? Get it together and text me or message me or whatever and let me know if y'all think of anything later, if you want me to revisit anything. Always send me a message. I'm around. If you want me to look at icing consistencies, I'm happy to help with any of that. If you need a refresher, there's the 101 thing, but sometimes it does help just to jump on FaceTime or something for a couple minutes and have me tell you like real quick, like, oh, a couple drops of water, a couple this or whatever can be really super helpful. So if anybody wants to do anything like that, let me know. And
Hey, don't forget your best tip of all time
yeah.
of water.
Isn't it? Yeah, it makes it so much easier, right?
Yes.
Today I used
Best tip ever.
medicine,
The
I use
eyedroppers or yep.
the medicine droppers for my kids.
Yep. I've used those too for my cats. We have like the little syringes that don't have the needles on them. I've used those too because it just makes it all makes it so much easier when you can control the water, because there is a very fine line between perfect and too thick, too thin, all of that. There is some give, but it's really easy to mess up. So but yes, so if anybody ever needs any help, let me know. And I think our next class, we're going to have to reschedule for like later in March. So we'll figure that out.
Oh yeah, because I
And I
don't want to waste it at cookie con and
No.
do something silly. So
We'll do,
We'll
we're going to
take
do
one of-
one later in March, and we're going to do Easter. I'm going to show you how to do Easter cake pops that look like a bunny face. Easter, not
Oh,
cake
yeah.
pops, cookie pops that look like a bunny face. So they're
Cookie
cookies
pop.
on like the little thing, but they look like a little bunny face and all that. So I'm gonna show you how to do those. So that'll be fun.
yeah.
But we'll do that
Very
in
cute.
March so that you guys
Sarah,
can be ready for
Thank you.
Easter.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you.
you. This
Thank you,
was the best
guys.
class.
Thank you.
Next week, we're doing a business class. So get some recipes and we're going to calculate them all out so you know exactly how to price your goods. It's going to be very, very good. Okay, goodbye. Thank you. I love you all.
Love you. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye. Bye.